Welcome back, everybody. Well, people across North Alabama are not shying away from their thoughts about prosecutor's decision not to charge anybody in connection to that Deshler High School student recently hurt at school. Investigators, of course, ruled it a freak accident. They say another student actually bear hugged that football player from behind, and that's when they say he fainted and fell and hit his head. Well, Will League from the Huntsville law firm Timberlake, League and Brooks joining us right now to talk about this case. First of all, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, let's give the phone number, 256-536-0077. If you've got a comment or a question about this case, this determination that, of course, they're not going to prosecute, does that mean this case is over? Or if not, where does it go from here?
Well, you know, the DA was kind enough to come up and talk to us last night,
right,
on LawCall. And basically, the case is not closed in terms of if there is additional evidence out there. He outlined the eyewitnesses, everyone who was there, 2 adults, a coach, and the other teammates that were there at the time that it happened. Based on those interviews, it's my understanding that there will be no charges filed. However, we specifically asked if there's new information that comes to light. They will certainly are interested in that and will reevaluate the case. And like you, I had some questions as well. When, if you bear hug someone, that can cause, someone to pass out. Right?
A lack of oxygen, I think. I've seen that.
And so we specifically asked about that because I'm like, you know what? You don't put your hands on anybody, right? I get it, they're kids, but if it was a bear hug to where it was sinister and he's, trying to, squeeze us, but how it was described by the witness, it's my understanding, is that they're laughing and they're walking while he's hugging him, and it was a very short amount of time, and so that's what I believe led the DA not to pursue charges.
And this is definitely one of those cases that has prompted a lot of attention. And let's be honest, there are a lot of folks online who are quick to pass judgment and say that the DA is wrong. They've got their own opinions about what happened, but there's no question prosecutors did a thorough job trying to get to the bottom of what happened to this kid for that very reason.
Right, and looking at it, looks like they talked to all the witnesses. They evaluated the medical reports and the recording of the physician who said it was consistent with assault, which could be consistent with trauma as well. And so they're leaving it open. And it looks like they talked to everyone involved. And one of the interesting things is they reviewed text messages from all those players in real time and right after it happened to the parents. And those text messages were consistent with the statements there, at the scene. And so it's, wasn't there. I don't know what happened. All we can rely on is the eyewitnesses there. And as we mentioned a little bit now, this poor young man, he's got a long recovery, and we just wish him, all the best.
Absolutely.
And, the witness statements, of the real-time and the real-time text messages, led the investigators to believe the statements that came out of the eyewitness. And there's another side of this. This poor young man, a lengthy recovery and horrific injuries. And what if, what if it was horseplay? And this young man, this student of interest is receiving death threats. These other students who are witnesses are being called liars, and their parents, they have to go to their parents. And the last time I checked, high school students, when they're in front of a student, an investigator and the police, it's a pretty traumatizing event. And for them to stay in with, a scripted story is unlikely. But, things happen, and the DA was clear that he would consider additional evidence. The family, they have fantastic and capable attorneys. And on the civil side, as we talked about last night, on the civil side, they're going to take depositions.
Right.
They're going to get more information. And they're more than welcome to publish that information to the public to get, to shed additional light on this. And I hope for everyone, I hope this young man has a recovery.
Of course.
And the student of interest, and if there wasn't anything sinister, I hope he's okay as well. And if there turns out he was bullying the kid, then there's something needs to be done. I totally agree with that as well.
I want to remind everybody, you're watching a special edition of our WAAY 31 Law Call on this Monday. We're talking about a Deshler High School student, August Borden, hurt at school, and a prosecutor's decision not to arrest or prosecute anyone in relation to what happened to him.
We do have an email question.
Okay, good.
So I got a question about the case. How long how does the boy get a black eye if he was a bear hug? And the family's using a Snapchat post. And okay, first the first question, and then about the we beat the case, hashtag beat the case.
Right.
Talked a little bit about last night. So it's my understanding from the evidence, he bear hugged him for 2 to 3 seconds. Then as he let go, the young man fell forward and hit his head. And so that's how the black eye and the according to the investigators, that's how that happened in the physician.
Right.
And with regard to, now there was a social media post, hashtag beat the case.
I saw that.
That raised my blood pressure. You know, the kid's not charged, and then you send something out like that. And it's our understanding that the particular student of interest did not post that, and there was a retraction made, and that was just poor form by a young man, I guess. But that does, you know, raise questions about, you know, why would that be posted and that sort of thing. If in fact the student of interest posted it, I'm not sure if they did. I do not know.
And
but that raises
AI,
additional question. You know,
there's so many things out there that are not real that we see on social media.
Right. So I do not know, and it's my understanding that the school and the team are trying to support the student of interest, because they believe their players, they believe their kids, and the amount of hate the student of interest has gotten. They're trying to surround him as well, and we got some interesting texts last night if they want to support, you know, the injured young man. And there was some, you know, but calling all of our boys liars when they're just at football practice and they try to tell the truth. That was that side. The other side is we want to know what happened, and that's totally understandable. This young man's hurt, and, you know, his football career, which, you know, it's important to young men, you know, and that's in jeopardy, and his overall health, which is much more important than all of this, right? And so hopefully that young man will have a speedy recovery. We got another text message where this young man who posted it, and it was not the student of interest. He says, I want to sincerely apologize for my recent post. It was never my intention to offend or cause any harm. I take full responsibility to be more thoughtful moving forward. Thank you for those who reached out and held me accountable. So the young man who posted this, they put him on Front Street, and rightly so. You know, that's just poor form, young man, and ill-timed as well.
And those kind of things catch up in a big way.
Yeah, they do, especially with such a sensitive case. There's a young man hurt. And here's a question about why were the witnesses asked to sign an NDA? I specifically asked the district attorney last night about that, non-disclosure agreement. There were some stories going around that they got the kids together and had them sign. First off, that would not be. They're under 19. They can't legally contract. The district attorney said that there was no evidence that they got everybody together to get their story straight. And so that particular question was asked to the DA last night, and said there was no evidence regarding a non-disclosure agreement that was signed. And with regard to the thought about them getting their story straight, the DA said last night that the witness statements were consistent in real time with the texts that were going from the players to their parents, and they text their parents exactly what happened.
Right.
So there was no time, according to the information we got last night, to, quote, get their story straight. So that's, you know, but again, the district attorney was gracious to come to answer questions on a sensitive topic, and did, you know, said if there's additional information out there that shows them otherwise, they're happy to review it and get to the bottom of this for everyone.
You mentioned a civil case and civil investigation.
Right.
If this young man did bear hug him, even if there was no ill intent and it was horseplay, is there still possibly a civil legal precedent that can be pursued there? There
is, because in criminal, remember, you have to have criminal intent to cause harm. Okay, let's say they were just joking around like football players, you know, or like kids do. If he bear hugged him and didn't know, and there was no criminal intent, there can still be civil liability. It's negligent. Would a reasonable person of similarly situated age, all those things, do that? What if that was unreasonable? Then there's a civil claim to be had against that particular student of interest. Now the question is there money behind that? If it's negligent conduct, oftentimes homeowners policy can cover that. This young man's got significant medical bills, you know, co-pays, all those things. So yes, there is a civil claim that could be had to hold him accountable in the civil court of law, but not in the criminal aspect to jail and things like that. And that's to determine what was the intent behind it. I think everyone agrees. Everyone hates a bully. And if that was the case, it's criminal. If it was horseplay and there was no intent, there is still civil liability, and our hearts go out and just speedy recovery for this young man.
All right. Will, we can't thank you enough for joining us and for your legal insight into this case that's gotten so much attention.
Yeah,
Real quickly,
so
can you
sad.
tell us a little bit about the blog?
Yes, you know, it's at law-injury.com. You know, if you have a question, you know, feel free to give us a text, or is it a blog? Is it an email? I don't even know. Somebody knows, but you get on there and, you know, ask a question. We're happy to get back with you. And we do all things civil. We don't do the criminal stuff. But it was such an important topic. We wanted to look at it and evaluate it from the civil aspect, what we do, because I've handled a lot of assault and battery cases, shooting cases, things like that, but also with the criminal side from District Attorney Tim Gann, and answer a lot of these questions and bring some closure, if we could, to some folks. And it's an ongoing sad case, sure is.
All right, Will, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back.